Hi, this is George Romero, and I'm sitting here with some old friends who all played a very important role in the making of this movie. And it's too late. I'm already starting to watch. I'm sorry.
We're all going to do that. We're doomed.
Anyway, I'm sitting here with.
We weren't going to say anything.
We have to. That's the idea. We're supposed to speak. There's Vince Savinsky. Sitting next to me is Tom Savini, Richard Rubenstein, Donald Rubenstein, and Mike Gornick. And we're going to tell you some thoughts about about this movie, about what we were thinking when we were making the movie.
If we can remember after 30 years.
Yeah.
Martin.
There's John Amplis. Can anybody imagine that somebody else in this role? I mean,
No.
Man. John was absolute magic in this role, as he was in latter films too. But
Yeah, but just perfect. I saw John in a play at the Pittsburgh Playhouse, and I said, "That's the guy."
and I look at this scene and I relate from a producer's perspective, and I think back how you guys shot on a practical set. Effectively, we had this train, right, was pulled in to the station
Into
next
a
to the
station.
river.
Yeah.
Okay, and this was not an airplane set where you have the walls that move back and like you guys were actually crammed into this little
Yeah,
tiny
very
cabin.
hot.
How many guys?
we were method filmmakers.
Well, whoever it took. And didn't we leave somebody out on the to make it seem like the train was moving? We had somebody outside the window waving
We
a
did,
light.
yeah.
Waving a light.
And when we took a break, we left the guy. We forgot about the guy. So wasn't it?
It was our grip beef.
beef? Was
Right.
it beef?
It was beef out
We
there,
left him out there.
Was he still waving the light?
and
still waving the
with a light and roving foliage too.
He couldn't hear when we said cut. So.
This is Donald Rubenstein. It reminds me of how great George is at cutting music to film, because he would take some things that I wrote and just make them, just the way he cut them was magical. They went oftentimes beyond what I wrote, in the application.
Well, it's
to the
not
film.
beyond what you wrote. It's application. You were
Application,
sitting in
brilliant.
on that, man.
Yeah,
I'll
well-
never forget when you first when Donald first saw the movie, and it was. I don't even think it had a dialogue. Was it silent? Absolutely.
I
Did it
think
have
it
a
was
dialogue
silent,
track
but
in
I
it?
read the screenplay,
Right.
which
And
resonated so incredibly with me.
and
But
then,
did you cut to the music? Did you orchestrate to?
no, because the movie was.
How did you? What was the process? In other words, we finished shooting before Donald got anything to work with.
Absolutely, we had finished shooting, and I went up to Boston, which is where
Right.
Donald was living at the
Right.
time. We hung out for a couple of days and
Yeah.
looked at the flick, and then a few days later, Donald did the theme, the theme that you just heard in the very beginning of the film, and I fell down. I mean, I just loved it.
Oh man,
And,
that's great.
and then he went on and did some other, funky things. But then I remember we slowed some of them down, and we were
some
twisting
cool
it a
stuff.
little bit.
Yeah,
here and
yeah.
there.
There was some really creative.
It was
things.
really fun.
This
It
is
was
a little
really
off the track, but when you came into my house for the first time, you walked and I said, "Can I take your coat?" And you just threw it into the corner, and I thought, "This guy's cool, man." Just tossed the coat. It's great.
A lot of these, this actress and several people in this movie used to work at a restaurant where my wife was waitressing called Lady Astor's in New York, and the owner of the restaurant makes a brief appearance. He actually had a few lines, but he wasn't able to do them, and I think we got to our limit of 8 takes, and we gave up on it. But a lot of these actors worked at that. He was wonderful to, actors that wanted to work in New York, and
I seem to remember some investors that I told they would have a little background role in the movie, and then you edited them
edited
out.
them out.
But we already had the money.
I blame Ben Barenholtz for editing.
It was indeed. This is Mike Hornick. That was Ben Barenholtz, who took a product that was some 3 hours long, which we all loved,
Yeah.
and pushed into a 96-minute film.
That was
with end
very
credits.
critically successful.
That's true.
So
Wait,
what you told
but-
this girl, you asked this girl, you want to play a part, and then she shows up and she goes
Yeah.
through this.
She went through this. She knew. I mean, no, she read the script and she knew that there was going to be, not terrible nudity, but that there was going to be some nudity. And she said, oh, yeah, okay. Fran Middleton. And
And Sarah Venable.
Sarah Venable, who plays
She had a better body.
Richard's wife.
Al Levitsky.
Al Levitsky.
Oh yeah, man.
Wasn't he a porn?
Course
He
it
was
was.
a porn star. Yeah.
Call somebody.
So I can't even understand that when I saw him
Yeah.
because he was like
Call
fat,
911.
you know.
No, he couldn't understand that George
You know-
only wanted him to take off his shirt.
That's it.
He was like,
What? No
he was-
pants?
Right, he was ready to go.
Yeah, no, he was ready to do the whole 9 yards, and we said, we don't
Not
need all of
necessarily.
those yards, Al.
Here's the first twitch. Remember I walked into your office and said, George, I think I figured out how to do this razor thing. I did it over the water fountain. And Chris thought I slashed my arm open for
That's
real
right.
in your office. She like fell off her chair.
Well,
I said, wow, that works.
I remember I met Tom when he was in high school, and we were trying to make a film that was this very sort of high-minded, sort of Ingmar Bergman, medieval, set in the medieval times, and we needed two high school age, a man and a woman, and so we went around and looked at high school plays, and I met Tom. And the movie never happened. We never got it made. And then Tom went off to the Army and did all kinds of other things with his life, made a couple of other films, and came back. And he stepped off the elevator one day and said, watch this. And he cut his arm open, just the way you're going to see this happen right here now. And my wife, Christine, my now wife, Christine, she damn near fainted.
But at least I did it over the water fountain, though.
Huh?
At least I did it over the water fountain.
Well, yeah, he
So
was
the
careful
blood-
with those Spanish tiles that we had on the floor.
I hear it.
Linoleum, it was called, I think.
This worked out good because the first one he
Here it is.
stopped,
Ooh.
That's right.
Yes.
and you knew
right.
it was coming, and then you're waiting, and then
I look at this and I think about the MPAA.
That's right.
Okay, this was one of the 4 objectionable scenes
Mm-hmm.
that they wanted cut back.
Right.
And I remember that we went and we made a 1-frame cut.
really.
Okay,
What?
in the scene.
17 frames
Or
at first.
Yes, but basically, and we took out some time someplace else in the movie because they're very careful to check the running time
Total
to make
running
sure
time.
you actually took out what you said
What
you
you
took
said
out.
you took out.
Well, we did. We didn't lie. We took out X.
Right.
But we didn't tell them that we didn't take it out from the place that they objected
That's
to.
right.
We took it out from someplace else. But they saw the splice go across the screen,
Right.
which was, I guess, suggestive of the fact that something had been taken out. And they never really measured, and we went back 4 times. I don't remember the other bloodletting scenes that we did that with, but we actually lost relatively little.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we lost some footage out of the parade or something.
Yes, right, exactly.
Actually, my detective scene.
Oh, is that right?
We later put all those frames back in, though.
I love the way these credits came in. Just something about the time.
Well, I know that was an argument we had.
Yeah.
Everybody said, "Wait a minute, can't put the credits now. Everybody's into the movie already."
He was great.
They were still on the train. We're still on this actual location. Beef is still out there with Thing.
Well, that train was still running at that point, right? I mean, it was a live train line that ran into downtown Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh and Lake Erie, right?
Pittsburgh
right?
and
Came
Lake
into
Erie.
then Station Square,
Right.
now Station Square, right?
Yeah, but
Right.
but the train was not running when we were in it. It was,
So you didn't go to Erie then and come back?
no, we didn't.
No, this was downtown.
We thought about it.
It was down,
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
downtown Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ask Beef. He thinks we went to Erie. I mean, he was out there.
Does anyone remember how long we shot? I mean, I should remember, but I don't.
I don't either. I don't.
Did we
what was
shoot?
it?
I don't think we shot continuously. I think there were places where we went in spurts.
What, just weekends or something?
No, much more regularly than weekends.
This scene in particular, I think we shot over maybe 3, maybe a 4th night there, but always nights for obvious reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't remember us taking any sort of big breaks.
I don't remember call sheets.
And on Dawn of the Dead, not call sheets. Who
You know what I'm
needs
saying?
them? We would just call
Do we know what
everybody
they
up.
were at this
I mean, it was
point?
only 15 of us.
That's right.
We just, like, the night before we left, we just said, coming back tomorrow? Yeah.
Just get him
I'll
on
be
the
there.
phone.
What time you want to see?
See if he can be here. The Berg. Hey, there goes Vince.
That's Mike. That's a great beauty shot.
Oh, it's great stuff.
Pittsburgh never looked so good.
Oh, it's the whole film.
Sorry.
Great
The
stuff.
whole
It's
film looks
incredible.
fabulous. You know?
It's the old Pittsburgh before they tore it down.
Exactly.
I always love this scene, man. This is
Vince. These are all Lady Esther's people. Here comes the owner of the restaurant. No, he's not there. He's in here somewhere. Oops. Careful, Martin. There he is.
It was
Robert
really
Ogden.
great that they didn't cost a lot.
That's the guy that owned the restaurant?
He owned the restaurant, yeah.
Lincoln.
Lincoln Mizell.
Who was the father of Lauren Maisel?
Famous Pittsburgh Symphony conductor.
Right.
Now
Nobody
in
works
New
at
York,
Kane
now
like
in New York, I believe.
Lincoln.
Lincoln
Is he?
Mizell, he was the Bingo O'Malley of this time
That's right.
in Pittsburgh. We did Summer Stock right after this. We did Little Abner together.
You're kidding.
Yeah, he was my ride to the White Barn Theater.
What was it? What did he play?
God, what was he? He was the mayor or something?
Who were you?
Oh, I was so many different things. The
Oh.
Scrag brother, a butler, and he coached me on how to have an English accent for the butler part.
An
I was in
English
my-
accent?
yeah, I was in my teens.
Little Abner?
Well, it was the butler, you know.
Oh, okay.
A butler, you know.
Was it the musical?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day in Dogpatch.
I'm just curious, but Mike, did you and George have a lot of conversations about
I was about to comment.
the look?
We had some conversations, but part of George's genius that I witnessed. It's only because you're in the same room.
It's part of my laziness.
No, George never arrives with a shot list, and he would advise me in terms of what he'd want to see in terms of a general form. But what's remarkable is that he's always thinking ahead. I think George is actually a world-class editor, and I think he does that even as he's shooting. And part of his genius is actually arranging and imagining all these shots for later selection to be used in cutting the film. And
well, I always felt George.
oftentimes I was even lost. I mean, a lot of those beauty shots and so forth, I had a context for them, but I didn't know quite how he would assemble them all. And here they are,
Yeah, but they're beautiful, Mike.
They're
I mean,
beautiful,
forget about
No,
it.
I understand, but I
It's
mean,
happening. No, I
the genius is in making those decisions on set. I mean, you could perfunctorily just move through some of that entry into the train and so forth, but you've always been a master of finding that extra insert to use later.
dog shots.
Well, your storyboards are always in your head, aren't they? I mean, I've never seen
Yeah,
this
no, well,
before.
that's the thing. I find that what happens. I know filmmakers that have only shot videos where continuity doesn't matter and it's not part of a sequence. It's just impressionistic all the way, and
because they're not disciplined enough to take the time to learn the trade.
yeah, or to understand that wait a minute, this is going to cut to something. I've worked with directors of photography, big deal guys that'll shoot a long shot, and you say, wait a minute, there's going to be a cut here. What do you mean there's going to be? You're going to cut my shot, and you get a lot of resistance. It's incredible.
But on average, George, I think that you probably use twice as many shots per 1,000 feet as most filmmakers on average use.
Well,
Because
some of that
I remember-
ass covering.
Well, no, I don't. No, I don't agree with you. I mean, in a more serious vein, that I remember getting the bill from Technicolor, which was twice the budget for conforming. Okay, than we had, and they said, Richard, look at how many shots there
lot
are.
of shots
There's
over
twice as much work. Okay,
That was a common reaction when I'd go to Time Film. They would say, "You got a hell of a lot of shots here."
Right.
exactly. Exactly.
In fact, in 16 millimeter, we had many a shot that, because of the A/B nature of the setup of the original camera rolls, some timing machines couldn't accommodate all of George's shots, so they had to set a general level and let it fly.
Uh-huh.
No,
sent
George
out a security
is
alert.
infamous for his three framers oftentimes. There's
let
no
it
timing
launch.
machine that can
When I
actually,
first came
given
out
a
from-
notch, can actually grab that shot. So.
When I first came from New York out to Pittsburgh and I saw George's editing table, it wasn't a Moviola and it wasn't a Steenbeck. It was staggered rewinds.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
And
Vince built all that
okay.
stuff.
But you could cut faster, okay, on those rewinds than anybody that I ever saw who was cutting on a mechanized bench. Okay, because if my understanding was correct then, as I learned, that basically you had the whole movie on the bench, that the 16 would allow you to get an incredible amount of material, and you knew where everything was, so that you were spinning left on one and spinning right on the other, because you knew your close-up was on this reel and your master was here, and they were both running towards each other at the same time, and you would stop them both, okay, at exactly the right moment so you could marry them.
Well,
And I'm standing there and I'm looking and saying, how does he know in the middle of this big 16 millimeter reel where the shot is? Okay. It was extraordinary to watch.
What I remember about George, and when I walked into the editing room the first time, this is Donald, how ferociously you cut with music. The music was so, I don't know, it's just like a part of your ears, you know what I mean? Then you had that whole table going.
Wait, so the music was playing?
Oh
at
yeah,
the
you'd
time?
have the music playing, right? You'd have always this, it just seems so much part of the whole environment, but it was like one big mammoth, not just the music, everything was like some big,
sort of happening.
yeah, exactly, yeah, like a happening.
Well, in essence, what Richard was describing earlier about the gang synchronizer and the sound readers, George would use multiple tracks, like the music and sound effects,
Mm-hmm.
to, in essence, inspire him as he cut.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I know oftentimes, even before he got into a scene, he'd recommend to me to go and pull him some temp music and sound effects. And we oftentimes did Foley well in advance of the final cut, just to give him a kind of inspiration, I gather. I mean, it's,
Well, we used to go down. Mike was the recordist at the time. In this little studio that we had, we used to go down and do our own Foley. We were, go out and buy some watermelons.
Right, stab cabbage. I walked in one day, you guys were stabbing a cabbage with a knitting needle. Okay, but as Tom knows, okay, even from a more sophisticated effects standpoint, it was evolutionary. And there weren't a lot of things out there that we were copying, or you guys were copying everybody else. This was homegrown.
It was a lot of it was invention. A lot of it was invention, which was really.
That's the
We
fun.
felt it was.
yeah, unlike
that's
traditional
what-
Foley, George and I didn't work to a synchronized picture. If you go to an actual Foley studio, they're just like post-dubbing a voice. You're actually working in sync to a picture.
Right.
George would cut a scene and have an amazing memory in terms of the length and the spot of the effect, and we'd just do it wild. We'd let the old Nagra roll, and George would say, "Okay, I need the effect here now," and we'd create that effect. And he'd put them back.
Well,
in the
it was,
sync.
then we were, but of course we were doing it all. We'd be up until 3 a.m, cutting out the little air in those effects. It didn't synchronize, but we knew we had it though, so we could get it in there. I remember the first time we ever did a real Foley was on Creep Show, and I didn't even know what it was. I'd never heard the word. I'd say, "Oh, you mean that's what Mike and I do downstairs?"
I don't need the picture. Put that away if you want.
No, I think that there was probably a common aspect to the fact that, in the same way they talk about painters being primitives, okay, that we were primitives in a certain way, in terms of developing techniques that, complemented what George wanted to do, and that I was watching everybody basically sort of get off. If George said, "Can we do this?" and somebody would say, "Hey, sure, we'll figure it out."
We can
And it
have
was
the
that kind of
dance right here.
It was that kind of spontaneous. No. I mean,
That was a great atmosphere.
I learned
No, it was a
that.
great atmosphere, Richard.
Yeah.
You allowed that. I mean, and that's really
didn't
true.
know better at
You
the
let
time.
us
Yeah.
get away with
Well, I think you did too.
No, but
George.
but you still do it. You still allow.
There was a tremendous respect creatively for everybody, I think.
Well, it really was sort of, homegrown movies, man. I mean,
No, I remember you showed me a negative for the first time, and you showed me which side was the emulsion
the
side.
emulsion side, right?
Okay, and then I used to impress the hell out of people by saying, "I'm a producer that knows which side of the negative is the emulsion side."
It's not shiny.
I used it for years, George. What I,
doing
what,
good
what,
with
what, I had no idea what you did with the information. But it sounded like I knew what I was talking about.
Sounded it.
Isn't this your mother-in-law?
That's my mother-in-law on the right. She's gone now. We're not in this
Oh,
shot,
God
but
bless
that was her. She brought all her friends out. That's Carol McCluskey.
They're great.
Miss Molly's mother. Her.
And this is a real story.
It's a real story.
Basically, we couldn't have shot more than 2 or 3 days if this was scale. We couldn't.
Oh, forget about it.
Okay, everybody really came out for $1.
Yeah, or less. Ingeborg, all those ladies, she brought them out just on the promise of a picture of Bloody Marys, I think.
George, I'm seeing the little guillotine, and I'm thinking about at Cannes, that was the little promo that we gave out, with Irvin Shapiro in his first sales effort. That little guillotine we took.
You gave
credit
out a
of-
bunch of little guillotines?
Oh yes, and that year at Cannes, if you looked around on any given day at any given restaurant, somebody would take out the little Martin guillotine and say, "Put your finger."
Put
in."
your finger in
Okay.
it.
Well, now there's Christine.
And I can't know, but that's Christine. That's my wife since 1980. Night Riders, the last day of shooting on Night Riders, we got married.
You guys met right before this
We
film. right?
met right before this. And actually, when I wrote this character, I was thinking of her.
Whose alley was this?
It was over there in Braddock somewhere. I don't know,
That was
somewhere
part
around
of the,
Booba's.
the Tony Booba alley. Yeah.
The Booba house is Martin's house. Is a great old friend of all of ours, Pat Booba, and his brother Tony, who's still an independent filmmaker of some considerable note here in Pittsburgh, who won some awards. And
Wasn't the guy on the bike wasn't that Chris?
no, you know who
Cliff,
he was?
Cliff.
He was
Who
the
was
hair.
that
He was
guy?
a haircut guy. He was a
Something about
hairdresser.
that guy, man.
He and his wife, or they're both
He and his
cutters
wife. They were.
downtown.
That's right.
Something like Command Performance.
That's it.
What, they cut hair on this?
No. They were just hair draw. That's
No,
where we
they
went
were-
for when we needed.
They were our cutters. They were
I see.
Smithfield Street.
Smithfield
right up
Street.
the block, you know.
Right. And he's saying, "You're making a movie." I said, "Yeah, I think I was in there getting a haircut." And I said, "Yeah, we need a guy on a bike." He said, "I got a motorcycle."
I'll bring the lady
So,
too.
yeah, bring
We-
Oh, I didn't know you were listening.
I do remember we came in on budget.
On all night from 6
Hey.
Hey, man.
75,000 cash, and we had a $15,000 credit that we got for the cameras. Okay, that I say you guys owned even before I came out to Pittsburgh. An Arri BL, right, and a handheld
Eclair.
Eclair.
No, Eclair. Sorry,
Eclair, yeah.
that shows you how much I know.
Ari and our Arias.
Arri,
Yes,
yes.
the old areas. I never trusted I always liked the cable in those days. I wanted a cable that went from the camera to the recorder. I didn't trust anything.
George
that
always
went-
hated technology.
That's right. I still do, and it hates
I
me.
remember the first Steadicam on Night Riders. George said, "Man, I'm never going to use that. Put that away, would you?"
Did you use it?
I think. Well, of course we did on all the jousting scenes on the ATV.
Was it a Steadicam or a
It
pogo
was an
camera? A
actual
real
Steadicam,
Steadicam.
yes.
okay.
Yes, it was first used in The Shining, and Bob Earl, who was here in town, got us a prototype to use on Night Riders.
Did
Yeah.
you wear it? Did you?
Yes, but George had put it away.
I said, "Get rid of that thing.
Nay, man.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work, Mike." Well, then Stephen King came in, and he did a little bit in Night Riders, and he hated The Shining so much.
Yeah.
That convinced
That was
me.
producing bile for years and
Oh
years
man,
and
for
years.
years.
And he was very polite about it for years. He never talked about it outside. He was really pretty good until some point the dam burst.
Yeah.
This is a delightful moment here. I think Christine shines in this scene. Here.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's her actual laugh.
It's wonderful.
It's, and John is so great.
This is a great scene. It is.
Whole moment is
But she
really
pulls us right along in this thing.
Oh, I can't.
Try it.
You know, actually, when I think about it, the new the,
There you go. But the thing is, we brought all these. There it is. That's for the laugh.
That's genuine.
But we brought all these religious. We brought one of these 3D religious pictures of Jesus, I think, or
the eyes that go back and forth.
the eyes that go back and forth depending on how you shift your position. And the Grandma Booba hung it. She just thought it was. Hey, Tom!
Hey,
there
man,
goes
there you
Tom.
are.
Hey, this is
coming in.
the first time.
Look at it.
I'm always Christine's boyfriend.
Yeah.
In Night Riders.
In
and
Knight
this,
Riders
This
and
is our first time as boyfriend.
Well, she secretly loves you, Tom.
This is
So
the,
I've arranged these things.
Right, exactly.
but it never worked out.
Tom, it wasn't happening for you in your regular life, and so
Right,
George
right,
helped
yes,
out.
yes. I appreciate that so much. But then he wound up with the girl,
Ooh,
That's a cool
Ooh.
shot, man.
those were the cuts.
I promised him, he's been bugging me for all this time. He's never spent any time around here. I think, he thinks we're off someplace,
What
think it's-
about
I think
me?
it was-
You don't seem to ever want to spend any time with me anymore.
We spend our lives in bed.
We do not. It's not the way it is, and you know that.
Just
I mean, it seems
relax.
like it's
Take-
never happened. You know that too.
relax here.
No, I can't relax here.
Just watch like the first half with them.
I'm so sick of you saying that. This whole place, everyone here, all you want to do is sit down and watch the games and just let everything
George, do you look at
pass by.
the movie now and do you see stuff that still bothers you?
You know what? They asked me that when we were doing the interview, and some things, whenever you look at your own
You can
work,
make me feel bad. It's
right,
okay.
Mike?
It's like-
Huh?
You can make me feel bad. It's okay. We didn't get to some stuff.
I made you feel
No,
bad?
no, I'm saying you can say that we.
No,
let's-
no,
let's
no,
make
no,
Richard feel
no,
bad.
no, no. We got it all. I think we got it all on this. I mean, you know, Mike will tell you, and Dee, when you do music, Tom, when you work on stuff, and you say, well, oh man, I just wish I could go and do that again. This movie, more than any one that I've ever made. Mike, was this your first shot?
No, actually, the first shot.
The bridge.
Actually, the wrecking yard near the railroads, where you turned to me and said, "Say, man, do you want to shoot?"
Okay.
And I said, "Sure."
Well, who was shooting before you?
This shot's actually very precious to me because my mom and dad actually arrived from Europe in Braddock, right beneath this trestle.
Ah.
Is that right?
Yeah, my dad in the 20s, like 1923.
So was George shooting before that?
George shot maybe 2 or 3 shots early. We did some early pickup shots near the railroad track with Tatakuta and John.
Right. And
And
then
I was doing audio. And Lincoln Maisel was, commanding some attention as it was John. And I think George realized the kind of frustration in trying to do 2 roles. And that's when he turned to me and said, "Do you want to shoot?" And I said, "Wow, yes."
Were you aware that people broke up those responsibilities?
No,
No?
never. I still would like to do it all. I mean, Donald. I mean, it's like when you write a piece of music. Wouldn't you like to play all the parts? I mean, or not?
Yeah, well,
He doesn't
Yeah.
play all the parts?
yeah, I'm just sitting here stuttering.
I thought
Yeah,
you did.
well, yeah, I do all of them. No.
You have
well,
a
with
certain-
the synthesizer, you get that kind of opportunity. But yeah, but the thing is, in a lot of in the music, it's funny because a lot of these cats were jazz players, and it's just like the film. They lend so much creative. They have a lot of creative influence and stuff. So you just go with that.
Yeah.
You just go with the fact that happens,
But
and,
there's
and
a-
you love it.
There's a big thing about relaxing behind that, which I couldn't do for a long time.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I
Because
couldn't, man.
Because you
I-
seem. I think you're the sort of the epitome of that.
Well, it's like it's taken me a long time to say, Jesus, this guy knows a little more than me. And actually
But I
working with
think
Mike was the first time, and I said, wow, this is cool. First of all, I don't have the burden. Secondly, he's better. So
Not true, but
no,
I
it is
could be.
true.
I could be wrong,
But
but
it takes you a while to get there.
Yeah.
Because, when we started with this little production company, doing commercials and industrial films and all that, and at the very outset, I was the only cat that even knew what a camera was, and I barely knew, but I pretended that I really knew. And, there's a desire.
Well, you knew more than you thought you knew.
Well, I guess, no, I don't even know about that, but, I don't know.
But
I
you were
just-
doing it
I know
all.
exactly what you mean. That's that. Yeah, but you just can't. You can't do it. I mean,
You can't do it.
just can't.
And you know what? It's
Yeah.
about, with me, it was also a little bit of shyness and worried about, can I communicate? Can I communicate an idea to somebody? Well, no, here, give me the camera. I'll shoot it. I'll shoot it exactly the way I want to. Or give me the microphone. I want to, and I don't know,
Well, it's very hard,
It takes a long time to learn how to just, be communicative enough and relax and rely on people's talents.
I found you so open-minded, and there's such a creative connection that when there was creative connection, you seemed to be like very open and happy
we all
about
were.
it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
we all were. That's
in
what
those
made
days,
it happen,
man. We
right.
had there was a
Right.
our shop was like it was more of a brotherhood than a. Than
that's
a-
what made this film so unique. I
Exactly.
mean, there were no unions, there was no pretense. Everyone was available.
Everybody was
Always available. The actors were available. You want to shoot today? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Even,
like,
even our crew, we had, young guys like Tom Dubinsky coming in from NYU who worked for Bupkis, nothing. But, Tom, are you available this afternoon to load magazines and be my focus puller? Sure. Everyone was so, the city was cooperative. The B&O Railroad was cooperative. I mean,
Right.
we walked in on a Saturday
Even
to shoot
Samini was
scenes there.
cooperative.
Right. Tom got paid nothing.
Can I get hit by that car? Sure. Let me do that.
And a
I
lot,
can
of,
do
and a lot
that.
of people had girlfriends that would work for free, or family that would work for free, or
Yeah.
I worked for $500. That's not true. I
Did
got,
I-
I got 500 for. I got 500
Did I
for the.
agree to pay you that much?
Yeah, I got. I got five. No, you were better than that. I got 500 for the first 2 months and 500 for the second. So
Oh,
there you
so-
go.
yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
So
I
it
didn't
worked
care.
out.
I was always working like a maniac
So
anyway.
you're glad we dragged it on.
Eliane was Ben's girlfriend,
Ben's
And-
girlfriend at the time.
Alien Nadu.
and Sarah Venable became Ben's
Became
girlfriend
Ben's
later.
girlfriend later.
Wow.
I liked her.
See how many people you gave a star to?
Later became Tom's girlfriend. Right?
No,
No.
not this movie, but I liked her a lot.
Go on.
That's
You
that's
sound
all.
wistful.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that never happened.
You liked who? I didn't hear the first
Her,
part.
All of
her,
them.
right
And
there.
Leon.
Yeah, I wasn't there for her nude scene, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you did. You mean? Oh, on the couch. Or you did that scene
No,
in the tub.
in the
No, I
bathroom.
wasn't even there for that.
Who did the
I don't.
blood?
I think I might have given you guys. You asked me for some blood. and I
You,
didn't
you
know
me-
did. You gave
give-
the blood to Joyce Weber.
You remember that? Now Joyce, I was seeing.
Joyce Weber.
Yes.
Joyce Weber, who was our prop master.
That's right.
Mistress, yeah. Whatever.
By the way, that was her
Your
husband
mistress,
in
I'm
the
sorry.
In the
toilet,
toilet,
early
yes,
in the
she
She was
earlier
your mistress,
scene.
then she was our prop master.
Yes.
Joyce Weber.
But yeah, you guys asked me for blood, and then I didn't know what you were doing with it.
I gave blood.
But why wasn't I
But
there?
where
for
were you
nude
that
scene?
day?
I don't
You
know.
were always on the set.
I guess you didn't need me to splash blood around. Anybody could have just thrown blood around.
Pictures.
And that was that old 3M blood too.
I think that was the first
horrible
time we called somebody, asked them to come, and Tom said no. And
Exactly.
the first guy.
See my agent.
thing. Well, if you had said it was a nude scene, I would have been there.
So it's your fault you never got to meet her.
But but George, you were used to doing everything on night. You
must
were
have gotten a
shooting, you were
release.
splashing, you were making up people, you were putting
No, I
chocolates.
didn't. Well, no. Carl and Marilyn did the makeup.
Oh,
but
okay.
I made the phony fingers on the guy's hand that gets chopped off, and they looked lousy.
But what about the skeleton on the steps, on the top of the steps?
I think I stuck a little clay on.
Oh,
that
so you
thing.
did that sound? Yeah.
I think so. It looked lousy too.
It's a classic moment. A classic moment. in
Only
movie
because of
history.
the Zumar, Wah.
I think this picture looks very handsome,
It does.
Yeah.
and the high def transfer it just gives it its due.
Oh, it's terrific, man.
We actually spent.
Look at
the
these
movie
shots.
the movie only cost twice as much as it cost to transfer it today.
What are these pictures? Who are these people?
I have. Was it some?
Is it
Joyce
Booba's
found
family?
some of them. Joyce Weber
Oh, okay.
found some of them.
Donald-
Some of them I think are
Donald
actually
Soviero's
Booba
family.
descendants.
Yeah,
I
Booba
see.
descendant.
Yeah.
But then those weird eyes on that little baby, man. I mean, those. And
This
here
is-
we
that-
go.
that's
Look at
a
this.
Booba
Look
family
at that
look.
shot, Mike. Get it.
Is our Pat
Oh, look at this.
Tony in it?
You think that might have been Pat and Tony in one of those pictures?
I think maybe one generation earlier.
Or their
One-
parents.
one
yeah.
early. Look at this. He's got that curled up hair, He just looks like somebody that would believe in a vampire. He's Van Helsing, He's like, he is Van Helsing. Forget this new guy. I think I'll step outside.
Wasn't there after like a big bloody thing that the bathroom sink was filled with blood and Booba's grandmother
Look at that. Look at
just
that. It's
walked
great.
in and
Yeah.
oh, that's lovely.
She was terrible. Well, she felt bad for Martin the whole time. And when we brought those religious pictures and all the icons into the house, and she thought we were all blessed. And she
discovered
felt
that.
bad for John because the script, I guess, told her that he was not blessed. And she felt terrible about that. I like this scene too.
Glad you don't believe in the magic.
Martin's an honest guy. He's right up front with everything.
There is a naturalistic aspect to this movie that I've always felt very comfortable with. Okay, not having been brought up on the genre, sort of, not being that kind of fan.
Right.
That this plays out so, say, comfortably.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
that the characters are in their environment. They sort of behave like people I would expect to behave.
well, there's a believability to it, and we never got totally theatrical with it, or we never, there are moments where that are a little arch, but there's a the context.
Well, it's a
makes
movie.
it believable. I think, you know.
But people can identify with that naturalness and these people in this environment.
Yeah. Look at the tchotchkes everywhere.
And I think that if the family really wanted to help you, that that's what they should do. They're crazy. They're the ones that are. I'm sorry.
That little dip that John did when he sat down. I remember that gave me fits and starts. Because he would dip, when he gets the standing shot, he sort of ducks out of it. It looks like he's falling on his face, and then he is supposed to sit back. But he always did that little dip.
He had incredible moves. Even opening a door, you weren't quite sure.
Right, which way?
It felt, the door's opening. It feels awkward though. But he had a kind of magic.
He does.
Did, yeah.
Well, in Night
But-
Riders, he's the mime, and he does these beautiful moves,
yeah,
you know,
man, it's
unexpected
gorgeous,
and just
yeah.
so graceful. mean,
But I think I
that's-
always described to you how he almost took over the camera. There's certain individuals, certain actors and actresses that when they're before the camera, it's effortless to follow them and go through a scene. And he's one of those kinds of people.
Well, you look at his
Incredible.
face, there's something going on in his head.
Exactly.
You
always,
see him
yeah.
thinking, you know?
Yeah.
But I think Mike is talking about his moves. I mean,
He's always moves,
and
yeah.
If you're the shooter, and you're shooting,
You never struggle.
Yeah, you're, and, you know, almost anybody else. You know, it's like it's somebody that doesn't have that grace or where you can, you know, expect the unexpected. You know, it's the unexpected takes you by surprise. I mean, some people make moves that are just erratic, and John was always had this grace. He was always, you know, you knew if he, like in Night Riders, you knew if he was going to move his hand. You know, he just had that. It's almost classical kind of
Yeah,
movement.
exactly.
Well, John's a teacher at the Pittsburgh Playhouse.
Yeah. And still acting and still here in town. He,
Directing.
He went to New York for a while, and you know, poor guy. I think he just got fed up with it. And actually, he worked at that same restaurant, at Robert Ogden's restaurant. The guy that was in the beginning of the film, who hired a lot of actors. David Emge worked there from John.
Wow.
A lot of people. I'm sorry, guys. Those are my dogs. They've appeared on many of these commentary tracks.
They have a microphone of their own.
They're number 7.
They didn't introduce themselves.
Occasionally, they have something to say.
Didn't Dario bring John to Italy after this because of this? Was it Dario?
You know, I don't know about that. Maybe he did.
Did
I
we
can
get
imagine.
releases from all those people?
Huh?
I'm just looking at the pictures of the naked ladies on the walls and wondering whether we got.
Now
them.
you got to
Yeah,
get
remember this?
Now you got to get this stuff online. You used to be able to buy it downtown.
Yeah, you didn't have to go down there. Those days, you had to go to Liberty Avenue. Or we didn't. The interiors, we shot those exteriors on Liberty Avenue, right?
Right, but the
these-
interiors are actually, I think, this little small little store in Braddock that
Yeah.
was abandoned.
Yeah.
Isn't
goes
this your
Sarah.
wife?
This is my movie wife. Yes.
There she goes.
George was trying to suggest something to Catherine and I.
No, I don't think so.
Boy, you put a baby in her hands.
Oh. Look at him working, man. Look at John, like, checking it out. It's great.
I've forgotten, does that address actually exist? 1156 Portland Street, Pittsburgh, PA?
Is that right?
Yes, there's
Yeah, it's on
Catherine.
the check. Do you see that? I wonder if it actually exists.
George, it's Catherine with the baby.
Oh, I see. He put a
Oh,
baby.
yeah, okay,
This is
Catherine.
Just
There you
on-
go.
Catherine has
Catherine's
the baby.
There it
online.
was. That's right.
She's
Buying the ice cream.
Right, she's online behind John. And it was a year before Manya showed up.
Here we go. Richard's. Is this your first and
Yeah,
only?
man,
This is the
thing.
first and only appearance I've ever made on camera.
And it's a
in
long shot.
in a real movie.
No. But he shows up.
You're
No,
in
George
the-
gives me a medium close up.
Ah.
There's a close up coming, or medium close up coming.
Hello.
See, anybody could have the note upright, you know.
That's beautiful.
I don't believe I did that.
Here he is. All right, Richard.
You're not smoking a Denim and Valencia here.
Thank you. I mean, good luck. Okay?
That's a great shot, Mike. That thing
Yeah,
of
I was
her
thinking-
walking
I was
away and
just
him
thinking
walking away in the
same
floor.
thing. Yeah.
This is Ron Rosen's house.
I love
Ron
If I
Rosen's
remember
house.
correctly.
One of our
I rem- Yes, I remember he got very upset in the middle and wanted to kick us out.
He did.
Yes.
You kept that from me.
We didn't know that.
Wow, what happened? What did he see?
He saw what'll be coming up at some point, which is his really, really nice painting. I can't remember what it was, in his front hall,
Oh.
hanging askew. Okay,
Oh.
in one of your chase around the house scenes.
Al Levitsky knocked
Knocked it.
He
Levitsky
knocked
sort
it
of
over.
knocked
Knocked
it
it,
down.
and when he
Yeah.
saw that, he said, "Oh,
Forget
I
about
can't
it.
have these people in my house."
Come on, it's just a print, Ron. Hey, Ron, I know Ron. Ron lives here, nearby. But, hey, Ron, forget about it.
There I go, the cuckolded husband.
See, you should never left town. And see,
Look at the
this
size of my collar.
garage door move was really what gave Martin the idea. This sequence coming up, I think, is the
As a set piece.
anything that I've ever done is the greatest, man. And Mike, you were there, and I remember the grips were all, hauling the stuff. I remember Nicky and the guys; they were doing that's one of my dogs. Excuse me. They would do the. They'd move in the equipment. They were doing that huffing and puffing. They would do the $6 Million Man. What was that sound? The ding, 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 ding. But they were right there, man. And how late did we work those nights? I mean, it was just incredible.
5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
Till
just
daylight. Till
unbelievable.
daylight.
Donna Siegel.
What happened to her?
Donna lives in Westchester. She has 3 daughters.
Wow.
Wow.
She was great. Donna worked
Yeah.
for
Yeah, she was my assistant for quite a while.
quite,
actually.
a long time. All the way through.
But
I
this
love
sequence you're talking about, they were huffing and puffing because you had so many setups going on. I mean,
Yeah, and they'd be hauling equipment. They were pretending to be,
sure. Because they were funny guys.
They were funny guys. So they'd do this big huffy puffy thing, and they'd do the $6 Million. What was that sound? That $6 Million.
Every time
man
he ran in
made
slow, when he went in slow motion. Yeah.
All the guys that were hauling the stuff did that. That was the first time that Nick Mastandrea became a leader.
He was fabulous.
He
the
was-
crew was fabulous, and given our limitations, we didn't have a lot of gear.
Right.
We didn't have a generator, so we were doing power drops throughout the house just to accommodate a particular portion of the house. So we'd have to strike and move on. So it was a labor. They were great guys.
Yeah. All those cats, man. I mean, they worked around the burg for years. Nicky now is like,
with Martin, we weren't even big enough to attract the attention of the Teamsters.
No, that's right.
Not until Creep Show.
Not until
Creep Show.
The slashing tire day.
I said, wait a minute, they're shooting a movie?
Write it down quick.
This whole thing is great. I like the whole set.
The whole sequence
Yeah.
just turned out so incredible.
Yeah.
And Mike was right there. And the guys, we were talking about the crew guys. And look at this happenstance. This guy had this wallpaper with the black and white checker stuff. And then we wound up shooting, was it Ernie's Esquire was the place where we
Yes.
shot the movie, the flashback?
The period
stuff?
scenes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it had the black and white checks, and I still love the connection between those, which was completely serendipity. I mean, it was like
What you used to call a happy accident.
happy accident. It was a happy accident. There goes Donna. Now this stuff, that was all red flax or something. This place used to be a brothel, right? But there's the black and white checks.
It's Donald Soviero's place.
Huh?
Isn't that Donald Soviero's?
No, it
No?
was not. No, it wasn't.
Okay.
His place was up on Mount Washington.
Okay.
He plays the.
But he plays the priest.
Exorcist.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
so-
This place was a brothel turned into a restaurant. But the patterns, these wallpapers that Ron had in his house go so well with the stuff that was at Ernie's. And, we weren't thinking, we
No,
were just
it was
shooting
it was
in
indeed a happy
actual
accident. Yeah.
Are we
But in a
saying,
way,
are we saying something about Ron's
Well, no,
taste?
if these flashbacks.
No. Oh, you mean no. Sorry, Ron. I don't mean to indicate that you run brothels.
The
But
brothel.
if these,
Oh,
but
it's
if these, but if these,
Yes, or that you taste.
Ron,
the
I'm proud of you,
wallpaper
bud.
Who is it that kept telling me to go to Ron's place then? Who kept telling me to go to Ron's place?
I don't know, somebody at Ernie's.
but if these flashbacks are in his mind, then perhaps the checkered pattern are making him think of.
Ah, you see that? You
flashback. I got
Tom,
it.
you sound like a cinema.
Yeah, I got it. Finally,
You're analyzing this.
it's only
to
been
death.
28 years.
We didn't analyze it. Mike just shot it.
We just talked over naked women and naked Al.
Right. But those patterns, like that shot right before this, those odd patterns on there, it's just.
And that's
very
so
incredible.
distinctive from the rest of the movie. Too.
Yeah, it's like it's really, and it really plays on your head a little bit, you know, when you.
Yeah.
And it didn't at the time, even when I was editing, you know. There goes Al, big Al.
I wasn't there for this naked.
Call
scene.
somebody, huh? You weren't there
I
for
wasn't
that
there
shot.
for this naked
See,
stuff.
you just
Tom, we
sent over.
purposely scheduled.
Well, when we knew there was
Okay.
going to be a naked lady, we just called you up and said we might need a little blood.
Yeah.
And you
But-
sent
but-
over a little thing of
but
blood.
I think maybe I'm outside preparing his death or something.
Oh, you were preparing for the neck gag.
His, yeah.
It's probably more nudity here, George, than all the rest of your movies put together.
I think you're right.
Okay, I don't know the number.
Big Al.
There's somebody running around with a hypodermic
I
needle.
love his stuff with the foot on the phone.
Yeah.
It's just.
Shit, it's fucked up. Wait a
I would
minute.
say to Mike, hey Mike, maybe we should get a close up of this. And Mike would be, exhausted, and he'd say, okay.
Well, the amazing part of this entire scene is that we were truly all exhausted. Somehow George kept his composure. You look at the amount of and the numbers of shots in the scene, yet he kept a kind of stamina in his mental thinking in terms of how he was going to cut this and what he needed.
Yeah, George,
remarkable.
I remember.
We reached a point at 4 a.m. where I didn't know what I was shooting anymore. I mean, I'll make it pretty. I'll make it pretty for you, but I've lost geography. I don't know where you're at.
That's where you're at. Well, you want a picture of the phone? All right.
Okay, you got it. And the guy's talking on it. Put the guy in here, all right?
When I think about it, George, I do remember a couple of times my coming to you and saying, George, the guys are really getting burned out. Okay? And George looks at me like I'm crazy. Like, how could that be? We're only halfway through the scene.
Yeah, come on, man.
Okay, and
And it's going great. Forget about
yes,
it.
and so on. And so you would just basically not pay attention, and everybody would rise to the occasion, and you guys would just keep going.
And that was the whole secret. Everybody rose to the occasion. Even Big Al. It was terrific. I mean, it was incredible, man. I mean,
Well, it's also
you
very
imagine?
hard.
I mean,
It's very hard to replicate
I
again.
I would say, all right, how about, I remember there's a scene coming up where he falls down and he knocks over a jar of marbles or something.
Candy, maybe.
Candy. And, not only, I would say to Mike, can we get a close-up of that? And Mike would say, yeah, but I need all the guys to get a close-up of that. They have to put the lights, they have to move the things, they have to...
Mike,
But
what are you
everybody
talking
did
about? Just
it.
he's on the
Everybody
overhead
did
lights.
it.
Well, I mean, the hidden admission here is we shot this entire film with a very, very slow reversal stock.
Oh,
That was basically 25 ASA.
25 ASA.
So we needed to pump quite often as much light as we could possibly have.
I like to say at this time that my coffee cup says Martin.
Hey, there you go.
Mike, what does your coffee cup say?
Mike, but all your detail is there.
Creep
You
show.
got it lit.
Your
Oh, it's
coffee
all
cup
there.
says
Look at
Creep
this
Show?
shot. Hey, Mike, how did you? I've often tried to remember. How did you get this shot?
I was up on top of the doorway leading into a closet. Literally. Just
But was
bounced.
there airspace? Apparently there was.
Yeah,
some.
yeah.
I don't remember. I've seen
Yeah,
this.
it was high enough. It was high enough.
Right, because
And
you
you
opened
had
both
lights?
doors.
I mean, I
You
look
had
at
lights
that.
in there?
I've looked at that shot 100 times over the last several years, and I can't remember. How the hell did you get it? But
It's very hard to go back.
There was no room to view. You couldn't
It's
come
very
in.
hard to go back to movie making that was as spontaneous, okay, that the business pressures weren't the same. We all didn't, like I say, we weren't as worried about anything.
Right.
It was, and people look at a movie like this and say, well, why can't you turn out 10 of them?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, because you only get one.
Yeah. Well.
Okay, well, or two, but they come from, how can I say, not from something organized, but something sort of more organic.
Yeah, but you know what though, and I often say to young people that are aspiring, go out and grab a video camera. I mean, today,
Yes.
in those days, it was harder for us to make the movie because it was film, and it was, it was harder to make the movie. It was easier to get it distributed because there were B movies. It was still at the time when the A features would play in the downtown theaters for months.
Midnight
and
movies.
so there were screens. So there were screens.
We played 18 months at the Waverly
Yeah.
at midnight, Friday and Saturday night, and I remember feeling, I'm going to say, like a professional.
Right.
Okay, there was a real movie playing in the theater on 6th Avenue,
Right.
weekend after weekend after weekend. Okay, in my hometown.
Yeah.
Okay, but made in Pittsburgh. Okay, and
Yeah, never
really,
played here, Mike.
Martin never found an initial what
think
I
out
call
in
mass
Irwin,
market
yeah.
audience.
No, that's right.
I was
I
at-
found a lot of critical, I say, compliments. But I don't know. Midnight was a great.
Hey man, I was at my friend Steve's wedding in the Village, and I told him the movie was playing at the Waverly, and we actually left the wedding in the middle of. He was the groom. Yeah, he was the groom. And we walked like about 4 blocks around the blocks to look at
Is
the
he still
marquee.
married to that woman?
No, they're divorced. It's true.
His wife is going, Steve.
And we looked at it and said, "Hey man, that's great." And we
Anybody
got back,
see
get back to
Steve?
the
Oh,
wedding. You know?
Oh, there's the painting.
there's the painting.
That's the moment that you were talking about.
Got
Ron
kicked out
got
of the
very
house.
upset. Now, anybody that gets upset about that painting, sorry, Ron, but that painting is not a wonderful painting.
It was very important to somebody, or maybe Ron's wife got on
No,
him.
it's like the guy who walked in when Nate's corpse's muddy footprints were in the house and he freaked out. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Did he just let you use this
You
house?
know,
You have to pay him something or what?
I think no, because he helped raise some of the money.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think he sort of contributed to the house.
I
for
think
the-
Richard-
for the
Richard bought him a couple of
Yeah,
drinks.
for the glamour of it all, not realizing that you should never let a movie crew into your house.
Absolutely. Did you give him the week somewhere else? I mean, we never saw Ron. He was never actually on location with us.
Richard sent him on
No,
vacation.
Barney
Is that
Gutman
what you mean?
came around a little bit.
But Ron was absent. Did you put him
Yeah.
up somewhere else?
In terms of when we shot at the
Yes.
house? Yeah, no, I paid for him to rent the house somewhere else.
Ah,
that
okay.
we paid for, I think.
Get away. Here we go, Tom.
This is
great.
This is one of
Now
this-
you said well, how are we gonna do this? You said, well, we'll just get a lamb. We'll just stick a stick in a lamb snack or something. And I
Yeah,
think I
something.
said, no, we can have
shave
his,
a lamb.
we can have his face in the shot. And you said, how? I don't know. And figure it out, And I remember you didn't quite understand what I was doing because I had him on his stomach.
Right.
And he was supposed to be on his back. I said, well, he is on his back. But no, he's on his stomach. No. But we'll build up the ground behind him and shoot like straight on. It looked like he's on the... Remember, we had some trouble. I had some
well, I
trouble
didn't
back then.
understand.
Well, this is before dawn. This is before...
Before I was educated into your
Well, I was,
techniques.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
that was
see,
great.
yeah, see, he's lying on his stomach. That's a fake body. Tasso's fake body, actually. And we just put some leaves behind his head, and he looked like he was lying there.
What do you mean, Tasso? Has
Well,
a-
I was in school with Tasso at the time, so I never cast Al Levitsky's body. But I needed a body, so I cast Tasso's neck
Tasso's body.
and shoulders, and that's we just fitted onto Al.
Tasso has stood in for a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
This is one of those places where we slowed down the music to like halftime.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
and
and you know what, man? I mean,
Donald, were there any
I
places where
hated
you
to
weren't
mess
happy?
with in a certain sense. I hated to mess with
Oh,
it, but
no,
I
I
thought
loved
that
it.
what happened because of what was
Yeah.
happening, that the sluggishness
Right.
made it a little more evocative or something. I mean,
Yeah.
it put you more in the head. And you know what, man? This comes from one of my early influences is a Michael Powell thing called Tales of Hoffman.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same thing. There's a duel that these guys have, sword fighting duel, very fast action, and very slow music. And I think that's where that came from.
I love it. And
Contrast.
so, although we've passed on from there, one thing interesting, I don't with digital music these days, which
Yeah.
you know I use, and it's incredibly malleable. It's not the same.
No.
It's just not the same. You can't get that same kind
No,
of
you can't.
slow
Yeah.
churning thing happening.
Well, it's like, man,
The
the
analog
first time I heard
slur.
it.
The analog has a thing you just
It
can't
has a
grab.
slur to it.
A slur, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put
Oh,
it.
so you weren't playing it in halftime. You physically turned
Right.
We actually
Slowed it down, huh?
Cranked
Yeah.
it down. Yeah, it was played at normal speed, and used, I think, in
Another place.
In other places.
Yeah. Other place it was used. Yeah.
See, this is where, initially, obviously, we shot the whole thing in color. And as Mike said, it was 25 ASA. It was reversal.
Right.
And which means, for those of you out there, it wasn't negative. It was positive film, like slides that you shoot in your 35 millimeter SLR. So it was reversal film and came back as a positive image.
The negative's in pretty good shape.
What kind of needles?
You make
looks
it
great.
from the positive.
Right,
But
you know what
this
I'm
was
saying?
shot
Yes, yeah,
positive.
Right,
Yeah.
but the positive is the negative.
Right.
In
So the
It-
camera,
well, yeah,
you're
it's,
talking-
it's the master.
The
let's
master,
say.
yeah.
Yeah.
the camera master.
But yeah,
So they had,
That's it, Mike. Yes, the
camera master.
that's it. Mike got it.
That's the term of art.
so
I
they had to
protected that thing for
re-photograph the.
I've
Re-photograph
learned
the film to make it
You know,
negative?
to prefer
Yes, you have to
cinematographer
reshoot it.
over DP.
They make a negative from the positive image. This is literally. It actually
It's
is.
like backwards.
It's the
like-
same film that if you shoot slides
Yeah,
as
Kodachrome,
opposed
like
to print film
Yeah.
in your camera.
You don't wind
in
up
your
with a
film
negative, you
cam-
wind up with a
Nobody
positive.
has film cameras anymore, unfortunately. But
I remember film.
remember
Remember,
film?
I filmed. Yeah, I used to have a darkroom.
I told you guys it was coming.
It was coming.
So look, it took me 30 years to shoot the second Dune miniseries was 24p.
Ah.
But what I began that I was interested in back time of Martin
Way back.
in terms
way back,
of
way before.
digital electronic photography.
Richard used to
It's
write
coming.
for Filmmakers Newsletter, and he would have all these predictions about what were things to come, and we were all going,
Nostradamus.
"Forget about it, man. Nobody's going to buy it." And it's like,
But look, George, you and I got from a lot of different places, from Salah Hassanine wanting to shoot Twin 70. Okay, there were a lot of technical.
3D. He wanted 3D.
Okay. That he was going to be beaming the movies to his theaters to a satellite dish.
right? Yeah.
Okay. There were some people that were
Which is
pretty far
happening.
ahead. Yes, which is starting to happen.
We didn't. I never caught up with those people. Me and Mike, we were hanging out at Leighton Image, saying, "Hey, forget about it. It's never going to happen."
It was slow in coming, though. I mean, it seemed adventurous and had a high potential in the 70s, but it didn't occur quite quickly enough.
Never got it. Mike, it's still not here.
I know. We couldn't get the audio loud enough at most of Solace theaters.
That's right. We're calling calling
Play
up
it
George.
loud.
Can you
Play it
turn it up
loud.
a little bit? Nobody
George.
can hear it.
George, when you did Bruiser, did you cut on an Avid? Did you cut?
On an Avid, yeah. Oh yeah, I've done several. The last several films I've done have been video edited. Pat Buba, whose house Martin was shot in.
In fact, this may be his bedroom.
I think it is.
That might be his bed.
Maybe it was Tony's. I think maybe Tony was relegated to the upstairs room. I don't know.
Ah.
Hey Tony, call in and tell us. But he used to work on Lightworks before Avid became the main deal. But I remember we were shooting TV documentaries, and Richard was the first guy that I ever knew who said, "Hey, you should try some video editing." And he knew. I mean, he actually.
But George
taught-
still basically took the reels of the video recorder and he manipulated them by hand.
I didn't trust the machine.
No. So he would sort of put his hands one on each reel and he would move it slowly back and forth until he found the frame that he was looking for, even though it wasn't marked.
Really going over big. I mean, it's very good. I mean, we have a lot of people calling and they're very interested. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to have you come down.
Martin speaking to Barry Farber.
Yes, and that's and who is that, Mike?
My good friend Barry.
Michael Gordon. is
No chat rooms.
Barry.
No chat rooms.
This was amazing stuff, man. First of all, these shots are gorgeous, but I love the the church
If you look at the content of this movie, of being able to look back, having been in the business for a certain number of years, this movie is so rich in the variety of shots, in the locations, okay? And you talk about $75,000 in cash.
yeah.
Okay, this is a big movie.
And Richard, I still don't. I thought we had a $250,000. I don't.
Where did it go?
No. The rest of the money is in Brazil.
Oh, I see. Okay, it's still there. You mean
No,
it's
no.
still there? We can do it again.
I have the original prospectus. Okay, that we for selling the investors.
I love that moment. Again,
The biggest investor was Alvaro
beautiful
Gal, who
shot,
put in
Mike.
$10,000.
Hey, my man, Jay Roy.
He's cool.
Oops, there goes Father. What's his name?
There's Tom not getting any.
Not
Yeah, I'm concerned though. I'm concerned about this.
Don't worry about it. It's going to work out in the end.
That's
Jay
why. See, that's why I grew the
Jay
facial
Roy was
hair.
an actual Braddock entrepreneur. Yeah, and sold used furniture. This is one of his warehouses.
I was always worried, George, that if you dressed up as a priest, there would be repercussions of some sort.
Well, I always worried about it too. Having been raised as a Catholic, I expected to be stricken down. But hey, never happened yet.
No. If somebody was gonna do something, it would have happened already.
What happened already?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they're waiting for me to get really cocky, and then they're gonna say, "Forget about it."
They're waiting for the rapture.
I remember this was one of the early shots, and I remember Chris bought this out. We shopped for the costumes on 14th Street in New York.
Right.
It was like, we said, well, we need a wardrobe for these people. So Chris had a place in Soho, and we had just started to see each other, and we're living together.
Look at the
time.
rain effect.
It's fabulous. It's all. Richard, you're right. I mean, it's so. And you know what, man? It was just. We were able to do it. We had the crew. Mike was able to not grab these shots, but make these shots, and everybody just cooperated. I would say, hey, what about
it would be an interesting technical exercise to work backwards and effectively work up the shot list, okay, the number of setups, okay, and sort of extrapolate back to see if you would have looked at this schedule and this movie. I don't think anybody would say
if we had
you could
an actual
you'd look
first
you'd
AD, they would have said, "You ain't gonna pull this off. You got to cut some shots."
Oh, the one
back
time
to
that
get into the
the
set.
one time I tried to get a real first AD, okay, it didn't work out at all on Creep Show.
Chris, if
Oh,
I-
and it's
Peter Giuliano.
Peter Giuliano.
Peter Giuliano.
But George did not like that he was talking, to people and raising his voice. It wasn't the set atmosphere that made George comfortable. No,
I understand.
And I was trying to sort of put some efficiency into the system on some level, not realizing that it would be inefficient. Okay, I learned at some point.
Well, and George has this kind of relaxed dynamic on his set.
Well,
that,
no, because you
that
have
an
Nicholas-
outsider oftentimes disturbs and disrupts.
No, that's when I asked John Harrison to do us a favor.
John.
Yeah, Harrison was one of them. Actually, Christine on this film acted as a kind of pseudo first AD. I mean, she was an organizer, and she had efficiency in terms of laying out scenes for actors. But
Well,
had we had one, we never would have shot this. They would have said, "You ain't gonna pull it
forget
off.
about it, man.
You ain't gonna pull it off.
You need
You're gonna work the
14
crew."
million. You need.
I got a strip board here for you. And I'll tell you what, you're shooting through December.
Yeah, there goes, but right, if we would have
Takes it out to 12 weeks. Look at these shots. I mean,
Well, the result is a richness of detail because there's so many shots and so many angles. And,
Yeah, and I learned by watching, and so George, I realized at some point that you didn't cover scenes in the conventional fashion, okay, moving back and forth, master close up, this side, that side, and that your style was much more linear.
well,
That you
it's
were-
called cover your ass.
No, well,
It's
no,
called, hey,
no.
Mike, can you get a couple of shots over here so I can cover my ass?
But that's indeed what I was saying.
No, but isn't that what you used to call graphics, George? Okay, that you
Yes,
wanted, you wanted to keep
that's
close
that's
up
the-
cutaways
that's a
that gave you.
euphemism.
Okay.
But that's indeed what I was saying earlier about George's efficiency, because he is a great editor too. That he could move ahead within a scene and design as he goes. What he would need.
No, it was an interesting, a sort of an evolutionary balance, okay, between George wanting not to make any decisions before he walked into the room, okay, and making you nuts, Mike.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yes, no. It's sort of
A
like
lot,
part,
probably.
yeah.
Right,
Okay,
sure.
and on the other side, though, recognizing that if you weren't to some degree organized, then you might run out of time at the end of the day, and that happy accident time that you were looking for something spontaneous to happen might not
screwed
be
up.
there.
Yeah, except you fell from my line, Richard. You always back me up.
Hey, look, I wasn't wrong, George. I wasn't wrong.
What was the line?
I said, hey, I need it.
Ah.
That's all I have to say. And Richard say, okay. You have to give up the burgers at lunch.
Well, but that was so. Yes, I still do that to this day. It's not a question of if you want the burgers rather than the sturgeon.
It's
that's
your choice. You know, the thing is, again, we were, Mike, right? The cast was like, they were there. I mean, they were the right.
Yeah, that's something to overlook. I mean, we had lots of opportunities as a crew, and you as a director, but thank goodness we had a very cooperative acting corps. I mean,
Yeah.
Given our confinement in an actual location, be it the train or the house or whatever, we had some very patient actors that
God.
waited on us. While we did lighting setups and we engineered a shot.
Look at those cuts. And Mike, it was not just repeats. They were all a little different. The frames were a little different.
exactly.
Here he is. This is the
Amazing.
guy that owned the restaurant up on Mount
I mean,
Washington.
I'm looking. I'm saying I hadn't watched it in a long time, but I'm going to look at the number of shots, the number of setups, the number of locations.
But those shots of Martin's head turning, it was not a repeat of the same shot. It was
Exactly.
like, they were all framed. Mike shot them separately, and, it was like, boom, 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 boom. And, you don't see that. You can't do it. You can't do it that way in an environment where, everything you do is 20 grand. I mean, it's like,
Well,
So getting back to my
This-
comment about actors, I mean, there's John Amplis who will accommodate 12 different angles. And
Different
never,
angles.
Never voice a thing.
Right, no,
Never
he'd say-
do you actually need that? You got to shoot that? I gave you 3. You want
yeah,
another one?
right.
John just kept going.
John, we need 7. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
No, but they were all that way. I mean, to their credit, I thought the whole troupe of actors
Oh man,
were wonderful.
the whole banana. And
Well, I
wait,
think-
this is the old priest over here. This is my wife's dad, Cliff Forrest Senior, the third or the second, or the third.
of the human race, you begetter of death, you robber of life, you corrupter of justice, you root of all
Corrupter of
evil and
justice.
vice.
But that's Chris. That's Chris Forrest.
This is pre The Godfather, too,
pre to God.
in terms of
Pre The
the
Exorcist.
round robin.
Author of pain and sorrow, why then you stand and resist?
And that's
I
the
don't think- I
actual
don't- I don't
ceremony.
think-
We looked it
Exactly.
up, and that was the actual ceremony. You can find this in the books of light or whatever.
Ceremony being an exorcism.
An exorcism. You can look this up. I have it.
Reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit,
Look at him.
God and forever.
He was just so
Yeah.
sort
I
of
love
straight
that.
ahead with it, man.
Yeah.
It was just.
But it's so honest. That's so beautiful.
I mean, it's-
growing up Catholic, that's much the way most of the ceremony is delivered. A little
Exactly.
dry, little.
Didn't
little off.
Bob and Harvey Weinstein hire you, Tom, after this at some
Huh?
point? Tom, didn't you do
Yeah.
a picture for Bob and Harvey?
Their first movie, The
The
Burning.
Burning?
Yeah.
That's it, okay.
The burning.
The
It
Burning.
was them. I had no idea.
That was their first movie.
No, because I remember
And-
getting a call from Buffalo.
Actually, it was after Creepshow because
Okay.
Holly Hunter was on Creepshow. And Holly Hunter was a fat little teenager in The Burning. And so was Jason Alexander in that movie, in the background.
No, I remember Bob Weinstein calling from Buffalo, wanting to know if you could be trusted.
Oh. And what did you say?
All
Thanks.
He got the. I
got the job.
Wait a minute. Tom got the job, so that answers that.
I love this stuff. You know, I really do.
Oops.
What's happening?
Here we go.
What's happening? My God, it's a Volkswagen.
I mean,
It's my classic 1965.
That was yours?
That was mine, yeah.
the thing about me is my references were they're vague, but they're connected. You know, it's not like I saw so many. I just had some kind of reference. You know what I'm saying? Oral reference or reference to vampire. So I again write stuff that wasn't normal, only because I was just trying to match it to this reference.
Oh
in my
man,
head,
I mean,
you know?
it's just so perfect, Donald.
I love this stuff
I
actually.
mean, it just whacked it on the head, man. I mean, dig this, just those notes, you know.
This was
quiet.
fun. Remember saying to Danny Keller, the violin, man, make it like a horse, man. You know.
And this was in Braddock, right? This little
Yes,
funky
little playground in
playground
Braddock.
someplace.
A lot of
actually a short
you
distance
have, you have to
from the
ID
Cuda
Braddock
Market.
as the place where was it the Homestead riots? What was the steel? Didn't Braddock have
Braddock
sort
is
of a-
across the river from Homestead.
It's a Homestead, okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of the steel mills and the early birth of steel,
Braddock was significant. I mean, it once held the title, you know, what Braddock makes, the world takes.
Right.
and
Braddock
by
is
time
pronounced
we got there, the
It's
town was
actually
half
after
dead.
dinner. Yeah.
It was really sort of dying.
Oh man, and you know the thing, and the people, guys were still sitting in the taverns waiting for the mills to open again. You know, it was like it's going to come back. It's going to come back. And that adds a real touch to the movie, I think. Just that shot when they were walking down the street, the burned out.
Yeah, I think it affected everybody. I hadn't been, there before, and it set a tone.
Yeah. Well, it's, all these up and down the rivers all around the burg. It's was the American dream, and all of a sudden, where'd it go?
It's kind of Shakespearean, huh?
Shakespearean.
Yeah, the way he turns around and
Wait, you
grabs that
calling
leg.
me Shakespearean?
Well,
What, you think I ripped this off?
Donald, how much music is actually here? In other words,
in the film.
I don't think George, you didn't blanket the whole thing with music, right? It's not.
No,
wall
we
to
didn't.
wall.
Actually,
This-
Donald restricted me. I grew up on the old movies where there was music wall to wall, and Donald said, "You don't need it. You just need a little taste and a little, where you
the
want." I remember
spaces
that
between the
one
beats.
of that first time
Yeah.
we met, and you said, "Just hit it, here and there." And I didn't
But I
trust
said
you
that-
entirely, but
Yeah.
then you came in with that theme, and I said, "Forget about it. This is gorgeous." And
That was a funny day. Mike and I were talking about that outside. How we didn't know each other, and I showed up with that theme in that little room downstairs, and
Right.
I had just
and
done
all,
these-
it was on reel-to-reel tape recorder.
Yeah, it was like really lousy shitty. And I had no idea if you guys would like it. We didn't know each other. And I was just standing there, and we just stood there and put on the music, and it played, and then there was nothing. No one said anything for like a while, and I'm thinking, what? Guess, and all of a sudden Mike said, "It's perfect," and we all went, "Yeah."
We were flabbergasted. It was good. It was perfect.
It was really neat. I mean, it's just so beautiful.
I'd really like to do it with you.
Oops, Tom, you weren't here for this scene.
I wasn't here for this one.
No, we just called you up for some.
Did you
bottle
just
of
not
blood.
want me around these women or something?
We just.
No, the women asked us not to have you.
Story of my life.
Sorry.
Now you tell me. Send Tom to the store right
No,
now.
I was actually just thinking to myself that Martin, the second year of what became Sundance, won second prize, okay, for drama. Okay, Claudia Wiles' movie Girlfriends won first.
Went first. That's
Okay,
right.
And you guys went out. You and Chris went out the first year when Martin showed.
Yeah.
And the people from it was called the U.S. Film Festival.
That's right.
And they sent us $1,000 that we desperately needed.
Wait a minute. They sent you $1,000? Wait,
I
you said us.
Did I not give you your 500? Well, here. I
think somebody owes
George,
somebody
I have it with me.
It's
actually.
more of that Brazilian bank
I
account.
have it with me.
No, I mean
But-
that is amazing.
No,
actually.
and-
But you know what, Richard? That's at that festival. That's when I met Verna Fields
Okay.
And-
And Mark Rosenberg and Anthea
yeah.
Silbert.
Yes,
Okay.
and that they were Warner Brothers people, and that's how I met Steve. Actually, I mean,
That
remember that? They-
yes, because that led to them talking about. Warner's talked about. They saw Martin. They had been developing Salem's Lot
right.
unsuccessfully. They had a lot of money in, and they made the not rocket science connection. Vampire in a Small Town. Vampire in a Small Town.
Right.
And they called Steve to find out what he thought of you directing Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
And then, if I remember correctly, that led to us. We talked about it, but then Warner Brothers decided they wanted to make sure they protected their money, and they went for television.
It was before, but what happened in between was that Steve had new Night of the Living Dead, and he said, "Oh yeah, man, send George up here. We'll talk." And
The summer of '79.
so yeah, Chris and I went up to meet Steven, and we hung out for a while, and he fed us fiddlehead ferns, and and he gave me a copy of The Stand, and he wrote in it, maybe we'll make this movie someday, you know. But and that was the beginning of the connection for all of us with Steven. And
Well, I remember on the other side of it, it was that when we went to see the people at Warner Brothers, they said, "Do you have an agent?" And we said, "What?"
yeah,
They said, "Do you have a lawyer?" We said, "What?" Okay. And they said, "Well, if you want to do business in this town, then you really ought to have an agent and a lawyer."
you need both.
All right. And Mark Rosenberg had come from an agency and introduced us to Lee Rosenberg.
That's right.
Okay. And so Adams, Ray, and Rosenberg became our agents. And then, of course, they said to us, "Well, now that you got an agent, you need a lawyer." Okay. And they were at 9200 Sunset.
Right.
And I remember being up in Lee Rosenberg's office and talking about us finding a lawyer.
Right.
And he said, "You see that guy across the street in the building that's on the phone
Over
and
there,
walking
over there."
back and forth?" Okay. He said, "That guy ought to be your lawyer." And that was Tom Pollock.
Tom Pollock.
Okay. And Tom became our lawyer and took us on contingency. And I remember his coming to New York to meet with us to spend an afternoon. Okay. And he never took a phone call. And he didn't call in any place. And I think you and I talked afterward that it was pretty amazing, okay, that somebody would come and spend the afternoon with us, that we knew was a Hollywood player.
Yeah.
Okay. And it gave us actually great encouragement. And he, basically gave us legal services for a long time before we could pay him.
Yeah.
Okay? And that was sort of the entry point to the traditional studio system.
For us,
Yeah.
those were the
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
The only other guy that
actually-
never
actually,
took a phone call in Richard's office was Robert Duvall. Remember that? He came in. He was doing his gypsy movie. He never
That's
took
right,
a
with
phone call.
Susan Vermaison.
That's right.
I remember. I also actually remember that Catherine and I and Manya we all went to Maine that summer.
That's right.
Okay, because I remember the bowling alley.
The bowling alley.
Okay,
And,
and
and Steve King talked me into a softball game, and I can't run, so I actually hit the ball. Accidentally, I hit the ball. I was at bat. I hit the ball. I tried to run to first base. I fell down. I slashed up my arm.
you were never a ball player.
I was never a ball player.
Steve is still supporting Little League.
Going away.
Anyway, that's
No,
how we met.
But Martin really sort of was, and I.
That was
for-
our introduction to
Right,
Steve.
and then after that, I went on the advisory board because for 20 years straight, I kept going out there after you guys made the initial, introduction, and I was
You mean
always
of the festival?
the festival, and I
Yeah.
was always able to tell people that Martin did a lot for us, and this festival
Yeah.
did a lot for us, and it was a great place to sort of show off your talent if you were looking to break into the business. And for
Pre-Sundance,
for
man. I
years.
mean, it was like before any of that ever happened. But Hollywood people still were coming out there, and that's how we met Verna. And Verna, boy, what a wonderful cutter she was.
Yeah, she was Spielberg's cutter, right? She cut Duel,
Jaws,
Jaws.
yeah,
Going back to the first one for the TV movie.
and a great lady. I mean, she was great. Anthea Silbert was there. It was the whole Warner Brothers gang. Except for the cartoon.
Eventually, Mark became head of production at Warner's.
Right, yeah.
Boy, do I wish what you have is catching.
Some people think it is catching.
I love this scene too, man. It's
Yeah.
just so off on a picnic, right? You know.
Yeah, that's a great
It's-
line. The
it's
movie
just-
is catching it.
I think it is catchy.
Yeah.
Look at this
It's
shot.
so odd to see him kiss her.
Uh-oh. Ingeborg's back with her Bloody Marys.
George, if I remember correctly, in the introduction that you wrote to Martin to the novelization, you sort of came down on the side of that he was a psychotic
Yeah.
rather than
Oh,
a
yeah.
vampire.
I think he is. I mean, it's nothing against John, but
No.
I don't think he's a vampire in the supernatural sense. I never did. But, you know, you have to make a choice,
But Kuda
right?
believed it.
Huh?
Kuda believed it.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that's his problem.
That's great. I like that.
I don't know. Did
And what is the
you ever think he was really a vampire?
Well, that's not important. I think not knowing makes what happens to him more meaningful.
tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. A steak gets you. Steak in the heart gets you, whether you're a guy or
If you know he's a vampire, well, he should be staked like every other vampire movie. You got to get rid of him that way. But by not knowing, it just, like you said, it makes it more tragic.
But it also
Poor
relates
baby.
to what real psychology, what a vampire is and does, more so in this film. You know, rather
Yeah.
than this relates to,
Yeah.
you know, what that's all about.
But it's, it's like in The Exorcist. It's the same as saying you're Napoleon. You know, he's
Right.
screwed up. This kid. He's.
Well, there's
He's
a
a
great,
vampire.
you wrote a great liner note on the original Reese Sarabin release of the music, and I've actually quoted this to people over the years because you said something about how the scariest thing is that Martin has us figured out while we don't have a clue about him, i.e. evil, you know, but
Right.
we don't get it. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
brilliant.
Hey,
That was a
ain't
brilliant
that
statement.
what's happening right now?
Yeah,
ain't it?
man,
Man, in post 9/11, it's like
That was brilliant, yeah.
take a look at these guys. You know, try to get in the head. Nobody does. Nobody bothers. You know. Okay, well, put 14 more cops in the airport.
Yeah, man.
What does that mean?
Right. They're just amazingly blind and stupid towards that.
Yeah, it's like
evil
it's-
thing. They just don't, you know.
It's like
and it's just
forgetting
doing its
about
thing,
what's
right?
really happening.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
trying to put a Band-Aid on it or solve it with.
Yeah. And it haunts us through, you know, history.
Got to pick somebody. I'm getting so shaky I might make a mistake.
A mistake?
And the thing is, you know, nobody ever gets to that place. You know, it's like Martin's honest. I mean, he never lies. He never lies. And neither do the terrorists. You know, they have a certain belief, and they tell you what it is, and nobody plugs into it. Nobody bothers to say, well, maybe I should listen to this guy. So I mean,
Well,
that's,
and they're
it's
also
amazing. It's
they are,
extraordinary.
in essence, as is Martin, our own kind of invention. We kind of set them into being by training, and by influences of what we define as sexual or evil.
Or
You know,
religious.
Martin, in essence, taking
that's the thing.
taking a
Right.
vengeance for us.
Right.
Right.
They're a
He sees-
reflection of the evil we don't
He
wanna
sees
face.
alcohol. He wants to kill those
Right.
people. He sees the stumble bums. He wants to kill the stumble bums.
Martin is
He
sympathetic.
sees what he believes
The
to be a
best-
loose
the best-
lady.
The
you
best
know.
monsters
That's great.
George taught me were sympathetic monsters, whether it was Kong or Godzilla
Frankenstein.
or Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Okay, and
Hunchback.
to this day,
Boris.
it's been my guiding, criteria for evaluating whether a monster is amoral or moral. Okay, as to whether or not the monster. Most of the monsters that George taught me to like or love were monsters that basically were put in positions that they weren't of their own making. Okay, and they were reacting in some way that was not because they were innately malicious or bad. Okay, but they were trapped by their circumstances.
I mean, Frankenstein.
And,
You know, somebody brought him
Invented
to
him.
life, and he's just going, friend. You know, he just wants a friend,
Yeah,
man.
Right, exactly.
It's like,
You don't feel that for Jason or Michael Myers or
no, they're
Leatherface.
just,
No,
Or
just-
even from
you don't
Nosferatu.
feel any.
Nosferatu seems to
None
have
of
a
them
certain
are showing
kind of
any
inherent
remorse.
evil.
Exactly.
They have no difficulty with what they do. Martin has a lot of difficulty with what he does. Even the zombies had difficulty.
Well, does he have difficulty right here? I don't know.
Well,
He
if
does.
he
I know
believes
what
that,
you're saying.
if he
He does.
believes that he has to drink
is
the
his
blood
psychosis,
in order to
yeah.
survive,
Right.
okay,
He's gotta survive.
somebody, did something, some point that caused him to believe like this. It's not a natural kind of thing that you would ordinarily.
The thing is, he's honest about it. It's just like, Frankenstein when
Yeah.
he's, throwing flowers in the river, and then he picks up he thinks, oh, this is a nice thing to do, throw something in the river. So he picks up the little girl and throws her in the river. And it's, it's like...
It's such a strong. Such a stamp. It's so funny. I wrote the song last year, and it actually has a verse in it which combines Frankenstein, that image, with the image of the townspeople chasing Martin.
Is that right?
Totally, and that's what I mean. I could show it to you, and it might not seem as much on the surface, but it's totally about in my
Tom,
head.
is
That's
this
what
where
it
you
was.
bounce off the hood?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Oh.
Pat Booba actually plays a drug addict, and I guess he didn't want to get hit
And
by the
this-
car,
this-
so I dressed up like him and got hit by the
This
car.
was the first time I learned how you do a bullet hole in the forehead.
Oh, well, back the primitive way back then.
well,
Yeah, back then.
But it worked fine, didn't it?
I know, but you know what? The guy, I think it was Vince
That's the
Cervinsky.
scene. Yeah, when they
Yeah, what Martin taught me early on as a producer is that an audience will get on for the ride if you're honest with them. And there was no pretense of, I'm going to say, big explosions or blank, okay? And so they don't need those props in order to enjoy a movie.
Oh.
But in our case, we were just inventing how to make you see what we thought you need to see if there's somebody getting shot with a bullet.
Yeah.
And it was very primitive, pulling sewing buttons out of wax.
But it's so different. It's spontaneous in a way. It's the opposite of my hearing filmmakers who discuss every shot in every prior movie that's ever been made as their vocabulary for what they're doing now. Okay, and I'm amazed that they can remember all the shots. But on the other hand, they're just doing a pastiche, okay, of somebody else's work. Okay, and they're taking these pieces, and that's what so and so did in this, and I'm going to try and do this scene like that.
Right.
Okay, but I never. Okay, all the pictures that we did together, heard you talking about, somebody else's movie in that kind of detail. Okay, other than an occasional comment like we went to see the head of Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, and you were sitting next to me, and when the head hit the front seat of the car, you said, "Oh, wow, what a great sound!"
Yeah.
Okay.
That was.
It was just a little plop. I don't know what it was, but yeah, that it hit the front seat.
Actually, it was outside the car. I think it hit the side of the car, and I said, "Wow, man, that sold it. You don't need to show the head.
Yeah.
You knew that there was a head in this sack, and they were ducking from bullets. I don't remember exactly what it was, but when the sack just hit the side of the car, it went."
No, but I began to appreciate how
Bravo, Tom.
how much your eye and ear, okay, could assimilate, take away, remember. Where I would look at a scene and I would get the broad stroke, okay, and you would look at it in that same 4 seconds, and you could catalog, okay, an incredible amount of information, okay, having only seen it flash by you. And I began to appreciate people who, do what you do. Okay, and having that,
it's you know what it is. It's about digging movies, man. I mean, it's like and you notice these little moments. I don't know.
It's about taking movies.
What time of the year to go south? Ever been to Mexico?
those are those two guys are. One of them is one of our attorneys for Berkman Rustling. Harvey Egger.
Yeah, Harvey. And the other guy was Joyce's husband, right?
So he's
That's
still
correct.
there. It's the same guy in the commode.
He
From early on.
was a editorial writer for Pittsburgh Press.
Got a letter from Christina.
Came and pulled his pants down.
For you, George. For you.
That is too bad.
Oh, here we go, Staboulis. This scene grossed more people out than any of the other stuff.
It's a chicken.
Huh? It's a chicken.
They eat it.
But who likes chickens?
This is one of my favorite bits of music.
I love
like
this, D.
Yeah, this is nice.
There's also Donald also did the music for Night Riders, and there's a thing the little thematic thing that you did in there, which was this sort of little atonal thing when everybody's sort of chilling and just like this. I said,
I
"Man,
remember that. I remember it was kind of post this, right? When I
Right,
wrote it.
and it's just beautiful. It's like,
Thanks.
Well, and it's funny that when I first heard the music, I didn't like it.
you didn't like it?
Nope. Because it wasn't sort of conventional ABC.
Boo.
No, wait a minute. I can admit to, I'm going to say, not being very, sophisticated in a certain way, and it grew on me to the point where I really liked it a whole lot.
Oh, man.
Okay?
Well,
but it didn't feel like a score.
Right.
Okay. It didn't feel.
How long is he going to keep saying this for?
No. I'm talking about because look.
Hey, Don, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
No.
He's your brother.
Like Donald, like everybody else in this room, you gave me an education.
But Donald did a score for, he did Night Riders, and he did a score for a film that I made called Bruiser, which I thought was beautiful. My own daughter says to me, "You know what ruins the movies? The music." And I said, "Tina, give me a break." We watched it a couple of times, and she totally turned around on it. I mean, she said, "Oh, I get it." You know, it was like.
Well, honest to God, working with you, and it's not, bullshit. It's just great.
Oh,
I was so
there's
nervous
really
about you guys
license-
working together.
There's really the license to be, because we.
Richard
connect,
knew we were both loose cannons. I guess.
exactly.
Well, but
So we just happen
I
to
was
be
also
shooting at
very
the same
nervous
thing,
about, things I shouldn't have been
it's-
nervous about.
Oh, you shouldn't have been.
You can't let the nervous stuff get in your head.
Stuff is right now. Donald did not do this music.
No.
This actually happened, right? I mean,
This was a happening.
This parade was
this
going
was a
by.
happening.
We were shooting inside the house, and we heard a band forming out front, and we ran out with Martin and began.
And look at John marching along. You know,
And look at
just
this.
went with it, man.
Production value.
Right.
Look at the number of extras.
This
And
just happened.
Oddly enough, no one feels we're out of place
Huh?
shooting this. No one feels
But you
we're
know
out of
something?
place
Nobody,
by shooting this.
today.
Yeah.
There's not one glance at the camera.
No.
You get used to your life, and it all gets easier.
But today, nobody would try to do a scene like that without getting releases from everybody.
Right.
So
This is
somebody
great.
would be the parade would go by, and the producer would say, "No, we can't
Right.
go out there and grab that because we don't have releases from those people." Blank, blank, and blank.
Right.
You're giving people ideas.
And
Oh man.
Yeah. There you
Oh,
go.
no.
we did this a whole lot, didn't we, Tom?
This to me is a
I have a
little
lot of
faux
stills.
pas here.
Huh?
Because the steak goes all the way in
Oh, yeah. And then it's
and you
not.
pull back. Yeah. when I make tapes of this, I cut it when the steak is the right height, and then go to this shot, like on reels,
So you,
Oh, you mean you
lose
cut it?
The sound of the
No,
cross.
no.
You lose the sound of the cross on Cuda.
No, he just cut the pounding scene before it went
Right.
down too
The
low.
the staking.
Right.
This is beautiful. I like this.
Donald working out there. All right. And there's everybody that made it happen.
And they're all in this room.
Most of us are in this room right now. I didn't realize there were that many people that worked on this movie. Well, you see, many of them were just sort of, they came around extras. I hear, you hear Mike Gornick's
This was before I
distinctive
put the P in
voice
my
as
name.
the DJ, and then all of a sudden at the very end, the last line in this movie is also delivered by Mike Gornick. Nobody knows this.
All right, our man, the cow. Yes. On the count. We have a call for the count. Count, I hope you're listening out there. The people want to hear from you. Go ahead. What's your concern about the count?
The animators,
Here comes Mike's thing.
Barney Gutman, Goldberg and Snodgrass. Look at
So
this.
Lee Goldberg introduced us to Franco, right? That
Yeah,
was,
that's right. Franco Harris. All names, characters, and incidents portrayed in this production.
Yeah, well, that made it like a professional-looking movie.
Wait, here come. Wait, gotta listen to Mike. It's coming up.
I hope you get him back. Okay, and it was a good gimmick.
I think I know where the Count is. I have a friend who I think is the Count.